Welcome to Women's Sports Weekly, where women's sports happen every day, but we talk about it once a week. I'm Carolyn.
And I'm Danielle. Women's Sports Weekly is a podcast where we discuss the latest news, explore interesting stories, and share our love for women's sports. Follow us on Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok at WomensSportsWeeklyPod. Follow us and rate us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Send us an email at WomensSportsWeeklyPod@gmail.com, and we may feature your email on the Les.
If you're watching right now, you will notice that Danielle and I have on some new t-shirts. Make sure you hold it high. Women's Sports Weekly t-shirts are in. Ooh, you're showing off the back. I thought you were stretching your back. I was like, oh, okay. They look great. We are so happy to finally have them. If you are coordinating a pickup with us because you live locally in Denver, I have sent you a DM. So go look in your DMs. Make sure you find that. Let us know when you want to pick it up. I think for most of us, I have a time scheduled, but for some of you, I don't. And then if you're receiving your t-shirt via shipping, we sent out all the t-shirts this past Saturday. You can expect to receive your t-shirt actually today when we release, or tomorrow on Thursday, June 11th or 12th. We also sent an email to everyone receiving a t-shirt to let them know it's on its way. I have individual tracking information for everyone. So if you'd like that information, just send us an email and I will send it to you so you can know exactly what day it's going to be there. But be on the lookout. We want you to get your Women's Sports Weekly t-shirt.
Exciting. This week we have Run Club, Thursday, June 12th, and every Thursday at 6 p.m. at the 99er Sports Bar. As you probably already know, every week we give you a word, and if you go to Run Club and give this word to the bartenders after the run, you will get 50% off your first draft. This weekend, we went and saw the Onyx play, so the secret word this week is Onyx.
The Onyx are the professional women's rugby team here in Denver, and we'll talk about that a little bit more.
Also, mark your calendars because next Thursday, June 19th, we are going to have a Pride Run at Run Club. What does this mean? It means you should come to Run Club and wear your Pride gear. We are going to also collect donations for Youth Scene.
Youth Scene is a nonprofit organization that provides support to foster and empower the social and emotional well-being of LGBTQI youth and their families. They offer support groups for parents and queer youth and offer training and workshops to organizations looking to enhance their services and support to the queer, trans, BIPOC, and LGBTQ+ community. Youth Scene also provides case management for youth to help with medical mental health needs, as well as housing stability. If you're not able to make it to Run Club because you live not in Denver or you don't want to come, which we understand, but we don't, you should come to Run Club. We will post a link to donate in our show notes, and we will have opportunities also to donate at Run Club.
Yes, so come on, bring your Pride gear out on June 19th. I'm personally very excited for this.
Are you going to wear this hat?
Maybe.
I like this hat.
Yeah, it's a good one.
It's a good one.
All right, let's get into the highlight reel for this week. We have a lot to cover in this episode. There's been a lot of great sporting events happening, and it's just been overall a great week/weekend.
It really has. I was thinking that. I was like, we've been watching so much women's sports, and it sometimes, just to be honest here with our listeners, sometimes this podcast can feel a little bit like a job. But this week, it did not feel like it. We were watching everything. Yep. So let's talk about it.
Yeah, so to start us off this past weekend, we went to the Denver Onyx versus Twin Cities Gemini game, which, as Carolyn mentioned a little earlier, the Onyx is the professional women's rugby team here in Denver. This is the first game we've been able to go to, and we did a tailgate with some of our friends that we met through Run Club, and other people were tailgating that we know, and it was just like a big party before the game, and the game itself was so much fun.
Yes, and it was their Pride game. I think we need to get season tickets next year. I mean, It's close to home. The game was so fun. It was like a big queer party there. Yeah. It was also Pride Day at the game. And just as a reminder, the Women's Elite Rugby is the first women's professional rugby league in the United States. It was founded in April of 2024. And this year is its inaugural season. And it has 6 teams across the United States. And we are lucky to have one here in Denver. And they are very good. They are the best team in the league at 7-1.
Yeah. Watching them, I admittedly am still not hugely familiar with the rules of rugby. I've gone to rugby in the past and I know some things.
You knew a lot.
I would say a lot maybe for you who doesn't know a lot, but I wouldn't say I know a lot. I knew some things. Even if you don't know the rules to something, it's still fun to go and watch. And these women were really talented and tough. When we were walking out of the stadium, there was a player from the Gemini walking off the field right in front of me. Her legs were just covered in bruises. Like, rugby is no joke.
It reminds me of a little bit of when I would watch wrestling matches and I would just be like, ooh, oh no. It does remind me a little bit of that because it is so incredibly physical. And Denver handed it to the TC Gemini, the Twin Cities Gemini. They won 75-14. One player comes to mind. Their name is KB Slaughter. She put on an absolute show for the Denver Onyx. There was one point where she was getting tackled and she was just staying up. She was a running back. Like,
I was worried for her knees
I know.
because her leg was being held as she just fought through.
She was hopping on one leg and someone was tackling her and she was still progressing forward. It was so amazing.
She also lost her shoe around that play, and instead of going off to the side to put her shoe on, she just took the other shoe off and chucked it and continued to play.
It was so badass. And I think that's probably the theme of rugby in general, is just a lot of badassery happening. We had a lot of fun. It was Pink Pony Club themed. Everyone had on their cowboy hats. The Onyx are pink, which also makes that fun. And yeah, it was just a great day. Great stadium to watch it at. A ton of people were out. I loved it.
It was great. And if you don't know rugby, just so you know, these players are tackling each other with no pads on. It is so intense. The Onyx season is not over yet. They have an away game next weekend, June 14th at 7 p.m. Mountain Time. During the game yesterday, they were saying that the 99ers Sports Bar is going to play that game at the bar next weekend. So even though you can't go in person, there's still an opportunity to watch them in their next game.
Yeah, and if they make it to playoffs and get to play any more home games here in Denver, I want to go.
Yeah, for sure.
It was great. Also need to shout out Megan Married Megan. If you follow them on TikTok, they have a great TikTok where they make fun of their entire relationship. They were at the game this past weekend and we got to catch up with them and they listened to the podcast and I love that.
Yeah, that was really cool. It's always nice to see them out and about at games. So shout out to them as well. A lot of people out at the game from our community over the weekend, and it was just a great weekend overall.
All right, our next highlight is the French Open. I'm so happy we're getting to talk about this. Let's go step by step here. We'll talk about the semifinals and the finals. We're talking about tennis here. So in the semifinals, Coco Gauff was up against, would you like to try this name?
Lois Boisson.
Close. It is Lois Boisson. She is a French player. She put on a show, this French Open, for the French crowd. It was absolutely amazing to watch. She returned to competition just 3 months ago after tearing her ACL last year. She entered the French Open ranked 361.
Wow.
And this was her first Grand Slam. On the road to the semifinals, she defeated 2 top 10 opponents, Jess Pegula and Mira Andreeva, and then she faced Coco Gauff. She was absolutely a hometown favorite in this match. People were chanting her name.
Aww.
I also love Louise because she is absolutely jacked. I have noticed that on this podcast, whenever I say that someone's really jacked or really strong, that I'm like, and I don't mean that as a bad thing. I'm going to stop saying that because I think that's like my own stuff.
Yeah. Why would you think anyone would think that's a bad thing?
I know, because I was made fun of. I told you this in high school for being a little bit too muscular, a little bit too strong. And so I'm always making the caveat that when I say that someone's really strong, that I mean it in a positive way. Whenever I'm talking about how strong someone is, I always mean it in a positive way. I'm completely envious. Every time she hits the ball and every time there's a still, it's just like muscle on top of muscle on top of muscle. But she did fall to Coco Gauff in this match. Coco took it in 2 sets. It was 6-1, 6-2. I think Louise just probably ran out of a little bit of steam, but really cool for the French crowd to get to see her do so well. And Coco, who is number 2 in the world, beat Madison Keys to get to the semifinals. So she had a tough road as well to get into the finals. And then on the other side, in the semifinals, it was Aryna Sabalenka, who's ranked number 1, and Iga Swiatek, who is ranked number 5. In this match, it went into 3 sets, but Aryna beat Swiatek 6-0 in the final set.
Oof. That's a rough one.
It is a rough one. And, Iga won the past 3 French Opens. With Aryna beating Iga, there was going to be a new champion at the French Open, which was very exciting. It was Coco Gauff versus Aryna Sabalenka. Aryna Sabalenka being number 1 in the world and Coco Gauff being number 2 in the world.
Just to set some background for our morning on Saturday when this was happening, I was sleeping in a little bit because I've just been a very sleepy gal lately.
I love it.
You had an alarm set on a Saturday morning at like 7:30, which usually I'm the one getting up early doing a long run, but now that my marathons are over, I've just been soaking in all this time to sleep. And I'm like, why are you awake right now?
And I'm like, the French Open is on.
You were like, well, 1, we need to get ready for the day for rugby. And 2, the French Open's on. And you're all frantic with the iPad trying to figure it out and logging in. And at first I was just kind of like, oh, just want to sleep. And you turn the match on and it's Coco and Aryna. And I was like, okay, well, obviously I need to watch this because in the past I've talked about, I've never really been into tennis, but since being together with you and your family's been super into tennis, I've gotten into it. I will say every time it does take me a little bit to get into it because it's just not a sport I grew up watching. But as soon as I started watching this, I was completely locked into this match.
Yeah, you were like, well, how does the scoring work again? I told you. And then you were screaming at the iPad.
Yeah, I like totally forgot. Tennis, it's just hard for me to understand the scoring sometimes. But I love Coco Gauff. Aryna is also very fun to watch, and
Yes.
I've gotten to know her over the years watching, but obviously we are rooting for Coco because go USA and go Coco. This match was truly a treat to watch. Let's get into the details, but the fact that Coco remained composed,
Yes.
especially in this first set where she was down either 3-1 or 4-1,
4-1.
and you were getting mad at the announcers for saying like, oh, she's hanging in there. You're like, why are they talking about her like that? And I'm like, Carolyn, she's down 4-1. That's why.
They were talking about her like she wasn't number 2 in the world. And I was like, give her some credit here. She is so good at returning balls. That is what Coco is known for. She's going to try to get to every ball and just break you down. And that's exactly what happened in this match. I also feel like we need to give our listeners some background on why we have an iPad in our room and not a TV in our room. So we have a rule that we don't have a TV in our bedroom just because we want our bedroom to be a bedroom. It works really well for us.
Yeah.
But there are some times when there's sports on late at night and we're like, we got to watch this.
But we must go to bed because we're too tired to stay on the couch.
Exactly. Or we wake up early in the morning and we're like, we don't want to get out of bed and go into the living room. So we take out the iPad and watch sports on the iPad and it works great. Okay. That's the background on why we're watching iPads in bed. But yeah, did not love how they were talking about Coco in the first set. And she ends up fighting back to push into a tiebreaker in the first set.
But still loses.
I know.
I was devastated because I was like, she just put so much energy to come back and go to a tiebreaker. I immediately thought it's over.
Yes.
Like, I just feel like in those situations where you climb back like that and still lose, how do you bounce back from that? I admittedly thought she was going to lose this after that one.
So she loses the first set in a tiebreaker 7-6. And then we go into the second set and Coco wins the second set 6-2.
Yeah. And you could tell Aryna was getting very flustered throughout as the match progressed.
And Aryna honestly reminds me of, if I happen to be elite at tennis, she reminds me of what I think I would look like. Just like a little bit too much in her head.
And we've talked about this before with individual sports. It is so easy to get in your head.
Oh, yeah.
Men, women, it doesn't matter who you are.
For sure.
It was definitely affecting Aryna in this match.
And she's talking to her box. She's screaming after certain points. And I love when people show emotion. It's one of my favorite things about Aryna. And to see the stark contrast between how Coco was responding and how probably Aryna was reacting rather than responding, I was like, it's very clear to me that Coco sees a therapist and it's not as clear to me that Aryna does. And I'm like, there might be a sports psychologist in her future because she is so powerful. She has all the right things. And I'm like, you have to find a way to channel all of that. I don't know what it is, like channel all of that stuff into something that works for you. Because there is a way to do it. There definitely is a way to do it.
Yeah.
And I'm saying this, she's number one in the world. She doesn't need my advice, but she did think that she beat herself in this match. And
her comments after the game really pissed me off.
I know. She made a couple comments after the match of like, I beat myself today. Coco didn't really beat me. I just beat myself. And I'm like,
basically saying Coco didn't win because she played great.
Yes.
She won because I didn't. And that's not word for word, but that's essentially what she was saying. When you were reading those quotes to me, I was like, that is BS.
And you could just tell she was very upset. Okay, so we didn't even say. Coco ends up winning this match. She wins the third set 6-4. Watching her win, I was getting emotional.
Yeah.
She just was so happy. It's just amazing.
And they kept panning to her mom throughout the match because her dad, if you've watched Coco play before, her dad is never in the stands because he gets too stressed. So he's always walking about elsewhere. But her mom maintained her seat in the stands, and they kept panning to her the whole match. I was like, oh my God, she is so stressed. You could tell it's all over her face. But even when Coco won, they panned to her, and the relief on Coco's face and body and her mom, it just was very cool to see.
Yeah, and Aryna did not play well. She had 70 unforced errors. It was windy this match, but you can't say that Coco didn't play well. Coco took the conditions.
Yep.
And she said, I don't care. This doesn't bother me. I'm going to continue to play and find a way to win. And that's a champion right there. That's why people win. So to be like, I didn't play well, that's why she won. It's like, no, she figured out how to thrive in these conditions. And that's why she's the one with the big cup in her hands.
Yeah, hate to tell you, Aryna, but Coco also had the wind that you were facing too. So that stuff just makes me mad.
Congratulations, Coco Gauff. That's
the important thing. Congratulations.
It was so amazing to watch. It was such an amazing match. It wasn't the prettiest of matches, but it gave you everything you wanted as a fan. Her second Grand Slam title and on clay. It's hard to do.
And they were saying it was the first time an American won the French Open in a decade. I think the last person to do it was Serena Williams, which so cool.
Anytime you're in the same sentence as Serena Williams, it's always a good day.
Yeah, I would say so.
I love Coco. All right, let's get into a little ad for ourselves. Please rate and subscribe to our podcast. We love putting this podcast together. We really do, and we want to continue to do it. We create, produce, and edit this podcast all by ourselves. So if you want to support us, please rate and subscribe, give us a positive review, and share with the people you love. It means more than you know. Thank you to everyone who has already rated the podcast. If you send us a screenshot of your 5-star rating, we will send you a sticker in the mail. So please do that, because we want to send some more stickers out to our Women's Sports Weekly listeners in the wild.
Yes.
For our deep dive today, we're talking about another one of my favorites, the Women's College World Series in softball.
This was another phenomenal series.
So the Women's College World Series featured Texas versus Texas Tech. Texas beat Tennessee to get to the final, and Texas Tech beat 4-time defending champions Oklahoma to get to the final. Gonna be honest, I was really happy not to see Oklahoma in the final. I did not need to see a 5-peat.
Yeah, no, I don't think anyone needs that. And for a 6 and a 12 seed to make it to the World Series, that's also pretty cool.
Coming into this series, Texas Tech and Texas have never won a softball national title. So we were going to see a new team with the championship. Texas reached the finals for the third time in the past 4 years, but lost to Oklahoma in 2022 and 2024.
That's a rough go to make it that many times and keep losing. So this was a big win for them.
Yes, they ended up winning this series, but let's get into these games because they were also amazing to watch. So let's talk a little bit about Texas Tech. Nyjah Kennedy left Stanford last offseason and signed an NIL deal worth more than $1 million to go to Texas Tech. And she really carried Texas Tech through the Women's College World Series.
Yeah, she's an absolute beast on the mound. She's so fun to watch. I love her energy. I love when she has a big strikeout, the way she celebrates on the mound.
The Nyjah stomp.
Truly incredible to watch.
We also need to talk about Texas Tech head coach Jerry Glasgow because he has an amazing story as well. His daughter, Jerry Ann, died in 2019 in a car crash at the age of 24. At the time, she was a volunteer assistant coach at the University of Louisiana Lafayette, the Ragin' Cajuns, where her dad was the head coach. This was horrible. It was a multiple car crash. There were 18-wheelers involved, and one other person also died. I cannot imagine how you do that as a parent. Just really, really sad. She played college softball and wore the number 12. And it was very interesting that Texas Tech was the number 12 seed. Jerry Glasgow has 3 kids, and his other daughter is the assistant coach at Texas Tech. Her name is Tara Archibald, and she told him before they got the number 12 seed that if they got the number 12 seed, they were going to go to the Women's College World Series. They just felt that that was going to happen. And as most people know, I lost my dad a few years ago, and you're always looking for signs from the person. At least I am. And so to see all of this and to hear the story, I was like, yep, this is just what happens when you lose someone, and there's signs of them everywhere. And I really do think that they communicate in the ways that they can. So Texas Tech, like we mentioned, had to beat Oklahoma to get here. And it was interesting because Oklahoma ace pitcher Sam Landry played for Jerry Glasgow from 2021 to 2024, and they had a great relationship. Sam actually had Jerry's daughter's name, Jerry Ann, on her glove this year and played against them in the final game of Oklahoma's season with Jerry Ann's name on her glove. Sam also wore the number 21 because 12 wasn't available, in a way to honor her and to honor her coach that she was so incredibly close with. So lots of backstory here with Texas Tech, and they beat Oklahoma to make it to the finals in the Women's College World Series. Before this year, Texas Tech had not even won a conference title.
Wow.
So let's get into these games. The theme of game 1, and actually the theme of the entire series, is obstruction.
Yeah.
And we'll get into what that is. So in game 1, in the top of the 5th, Texas has a base runner on first, and they attempt to steal second. Texas catcher Reese Atwood threw the runner out by about 10 miles. That's being generous. But Texas Tech says that there is obstruction by the shortstop. First of all, there are a lot of challenges happening in this entire Women's College World Series. Each team gets 2 challenges for the game, but it felt like a lot more.
Yeah.
It felt like we were under video review a lot this entire series. They review this, and the umpire ruled that the shortstop for Texas, Leanne Good, obstructed the base path. What is obstruction, you may be thinking? Well, it's still not really clear to me. Obstruction is clear to me. It's unclear to me that if the umpire has more discretion on how to use that, because in this case, obstruction occurs when a defensive player not in possession of the ball impedes a runner's progress on the bases. No part of the defensive player can be in the base path without the ball. Not even a toe, apparently, because from what I could see, maybe it was a toe in the base path. Maybe. But even that wasn't very clear to me. And this is why I have some issues with this call.
Yeah, and even by the time we got to game 3 when we were watching, the announcers were saying, they were basically saying that the committee, whoever makes these rules, are definitely going to go back and look at this rule, and they're going to have to rewrite it in some way that makes more sense. So even the announcers were getting annoyed, it seemed like, by all of these calls.
And I don't think the intention of the obstruction rule, this was not the intention of the obstruction rule.
Right.
The intention of the obstruction rule is to keep the base runner safe.
That's, yeah, exactly.
And by
to
no
prevent
way,
injury.
yes. And by no way was this runner unsafe. She was definitely very out.
Yeah.
But she was not physically unsafe in any way. And it also was difficult for me because the video review didn't even clearly show obstruction from the angles that we were receiving. And I do think the defensive players should be allowed to make a catch on the ball, or else people are going to steal the whole time and then just challenge it and see if maybe a toe is in there for obstruction. Yeah. Like, it's very difficult to do when it's a bang bang play that happened here in this 5th inning. There either needs to be an addition that if the runner had no chance of making it to the base, then obstruction is not allowed, because that's what happened in this case, or that maybe the defensive player is not allowed to put their torso in the baseline, but maybe they can put a limb in the baseline. I don't know what it is, but it just was not working for this call. So now the runner for Texas Tech is safe at second, and she's hit in on a single to put Texas Tech up 1-0. And we were like, is this the way the game's going to go? It's already the 5th inning. But Texas responds. This was wild. In the 6th inning, Texas is up to bat, has runners on first and third, and Texas catcher Reese Atwood is up to bat. At this point, she has not had one single hit in the Women's College World Series, in the Super Regionals, or in this game.
Which is interesting that they were trying to intentionally walk her. Like, she has not had a hit in the World Series at all. It's not like she's been clobbering the ball. I don't know.
She did it all season, though. She's one of the best hitters.
Okay, but I don't know. I still didn't like this call, but go ahead.
Texas Tech decides to intentionally walk her. And to your point, I don't think Nyjah Kennedy liked this call either.
Yeah.
I think she was like, I can do this. There's 2 outs. I'm going to get
Yeah.
this person out. So I don't think that Nyjah Kennedy has probably ever had to intentionally walk someone because she was struggling
Yeah.
to intentionally walk. The catcher's standing up. She's standing on the outside part of the plate. And Nyjah Kennedy is attempting to throw some balls. But 2, maybe 3 of those balls were incredibly close to the plate and probably could have been called for strikes.
Yeah, and it's not like she was throwing mad heat on these balls.
Yeah.
She was just trying to get the ball too close for comfort for strikes and too easy to hit.
Yes. And Reese Atwood, it's 3-0. Nyjah Kennedy.
This was a wild decision by the catcher, too. By
It
Reese.
was. Nyjah Kennedy throws what's supposed to be the 4th ball, and Reese Atwood hits it. And she hits a ground ball so ballsy on her part because that could have been a normal ground out, but the shortstop for Texas Tech was not set. It goes through the infield, and it scores 2 runs.
Insane.
Texas is now up 2-1. I was just like, what is happening? This is the craziest game ever. And we get to the top of the 7th. Texas Tech is up to bat. They get a runner on first. She steals second. And then there is umpire obstruction because as Reese Atwood, the catcher for Texas, was trying to throw her out, she hit the umpire's face mask. So the runner had to go back to first. And then Texas gets 3 outs. They end up winning 2-1. It was an overall very strange game. They're up in the series 1-0. This is best out of 3. So let's get into game 2 now. So Texas Tech wins game 2 4-3. We were at Run Club for this game, we were at the 99ers watching. And everyone there was a Texas Tech fan. It was so fun.
And one of the women there was wearing her Texas. She must have went there. She had a Texas Tech jacket on and she was stressed.
In the bottom of the 7th, Texas rallied to nearly tie the game. So it was 4-1. Everyone in the bar was acting like the game was already over. And I said, this game is not over yet. And then somehow I got all the ire of people saying that I was jinxing them. I was like, no, you all are jinxing them because this game's not over and you're acting like Texas Tech won. And Texas came back and scored 2 runs to make it 4-3.
I still blame you.
I was looking at our table and we had switched positions a little bit of who was sitting where. And so we made everyone at the table go back to their normal positions because if you're a sports fan, superstition comes with the territory. So we all switched to our original spots. And then Nyjah Kennedy struck out Texas outfielder Caden Henry on 3 consecutive pitchers with a runner on third to end the game and force a game 3. So Texas Tech can thank us for them winning that game.
Sure. Yeah, I'm sure that's what they're going to do. But the bar was going nuts. Everyone was so excited. The woman who I just mentioned who had her Texas Tech gear on bought a round of pickle shots for anyone who wanted them in the bar, which is a wild move. It was just super fun to be around people for that game, and it was such an exciting game. And yeah, to your point, force game 3. So we were like, here we go again.
We get into game 3 and Texas is now seeing Nyjah Kennedy for the 3rd day in a row. She has started and pitched every single game and Texas came out swinging. Nyjah Kennedy gave up 5 runs in the first inning and was taken out.
I felt really bad for her at this point because obviously she has been a powerhouse throughout the season and you just hate to see that happen.
We need to give some kudos to Texas as well. Texas was throwing their ace, Tegan Cavan. Tegan did not let up 1 earned run this entire Women's College World Series.
Yes, she is a beast in her own right and also played amazing.
So we get into the 5th inning and it is 10-0 Texas. And I was like, Texas Tech is going to get mercied here. But to Texas Tech's credit, they score 3 runs in the 5th to avoid the mercy rule and make it 10-3. That just shows a lot of heart.
Because can you remind our listeners what the mercy rule is in college?
Yeah. You're putting me on the spot. It's fine.
Just ignore.
No. I think it's 8 after 5
Okay.
in college. It's either 8 after 5 or 10 after 5, but I'm like 99% sure it's 8 after 5.
I think it was 8 because I remember they needed to score 3 to stay alive.
Yeah.
It wasn't, if they scored only 2, it still would have been over.
Yep. So to Texas Tech's credit, they do play a complete game and Texas wins 10-4. We also need to talk about third baseman Mia Scott on Texas.
She's an unbelievable player.
And she was playing on a torn ACL the entire series. And let's just talk about how well she did in this Women's College World Series. During the final 3-game series, she was 5 for 8 with 2 home runs, including a grand slam. She had 5 runs batted in, 4 runs scored, and 2 walks.
Unbelievable.
She did not look like she had a torn ACL out there. Texas wins their first national championship in school history, and they've been to the Women's College World Series 8 times. So exciting for them. Congratulations, Texas.
Hook 'em.
Oh, okay. I don't know if I was ready for that, but sure. Let's get into what we're looking forward to this week. Danielle, what do you got?
Switching gears to the WNBA, we have the Commissioner's Cup games in full swing. The Commissioner's Cup is an annual in-season competition, and there are 36 games scheduled from June 1st through June 17th as part of this. Every team will play one game against each of the other teams in its conference.
So they have an Eastern Conference and a Western Conference, and that's how they split it up in the Commissioner's Cup.
The team from each conference with the top record in the Commissioner's Cup games will compete for a $500,000 prize pool in the Commissioner's Cup Championship. The title game will be played on Tuesday, July 1st. So we got some time for the title, but games June 1st through 17th are counting towards this record. With that being said, obviously there's going to be some pressure added to these games because $500,000 is nothing to just nod your head at. That's a pretty big amount of money. At least for me, it seems like.
Yeah.
I'm sure the women would want a little more, but when I'm looking at that amount, I'm like, damn.
Or you could just play in the Unrivaled one-on-one tournament and win $100,000.
True. So last year in the Commissioner's Cup, the Lynx played the Liberty, which is interesting because those are the two teams that also made the finals. So you never know. This could be an indication of who's going to make the finals this year. And in the Commissioner's Cup, the Lynx won, but in the finals last year, the Liberty won. So you just don't know. Today, June 11th, the Minnesota Lynx will take on my Seattle Storm at 10 p.m. Eastern on League Pass. So check it out.
We also, Danielle, last week we talked about our own little Commissioner's Cup, the C&D Cup, maybe we should call it, where you have your team Seattle and I have my team Atlanta, and they play each other a bunch this season. And we said we were going to make some bets. And I said that if I win this series, this C&D Cup, I want you to do a TikTok dance. Have you decided what you would like me to do if Seattle takes the series versus Atlanta?
Yes.
Ooh, I don't know what you're about to say.
I just thought of this because I was thinking I would still love my foot massage, but I think I want a 3-course meal.
Oh my God. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner, or like appetizer, dinner, dessert?
Cocktail.
Ooh.
Dinner, dessert.
Wow.
And I'm really going to try hard not to micromanage. I'm just going to let you do your thing and I'm going to enjoy it.
Just for the record, I was making some pasta yesterday and I had a pot on to boil, and Danielle came into the kitchen, which she wasn't invited in there, and she was like, do you think that pot's big enough? And I'm like, well, yeah, because I got the pot and I put water in it. She was like, I don't think it is. And I was like, do whatever you need to do. She was like, no, I'm not going to micromanage. And then she's just staring at the pot. And then she eventually gets a bigger pot and changes where the water is.
For the record, the pasta would have never fit in that pot. So I was just saving you a headache 10 minutes down the road.
All right. Well, we'll see what happens in this C&D Cup. And yeah, maybe I'll be making you a 3-course meal, or maybe you'll be making yourself a 3-course meal because we all know you're going to join me in the kitchen.
What are you looking forward to?
The NWSL was back this past weekend after a short break. And coming up this week, the Portland Thorns will face the Washington Spirit on Sunday, June 15th at 4 p.m. Eastern Time on CBS and Paramount+.
That is it for this week. We will see you next week on Women's Sports Weekly. In the meantime, watch women's sports and share the podcast with your friends. Rate and subscribe to the pod on Spotify, Apple, and YouTube. And thank you for joining us.
Good job.